WFUZ-TV, Coastal Alabama, Northwest Florida, the People's Voice.
Hi, welcome to WFUZ-TV. I'm Blair Castro, and this is Thomas Jenkins. We're here today with Gulf Shores resident, lifetime resident, Joey Ward, who's going to share with us a little bit about some of the changes he thinks Gulf Shores has experienced from early on to now, what he thinks about some of the growth and the development, and he's been speaking out, making videos, getting people out motivated to vote and, to civically engage people, and what he's experienced kind of working on that. Thanks for being with us today. Where do you see Gulf Shores in the next few years, and what can people do if they don't like the direction that they think Gulf Shores is headed?
Well, as far as where do I see Gulf Shores in the next few years, I think that question will be greatly answered on August the 26th. Because where I see it headed under the present administration would be totally different than where I would hope it would be with some change. And so that's, as far as a series of my videos, I think that my number one goal in making the videos was to kind of bring to the public's attention different things that I saw through my eyes, and with some conversation from others, but my opinion of things that I just questioned. I think, and I stated this in one of my videos or in one of my comments, God graced me with a tremendous amount of common sense, which a lot of times gets me in trouble. But I just, there's things I see around town, and I see lots of bright, shiny objects that the city seems to concentrate on, but there's a lot of mundane segments and pieces that I think are completely left out of the puzzle. And my personal experience, may not be yours, but my personal experience is that at City Hall and in City Council meetings, there does not seem to be a warm, fuzzy feeling if you stand up in that forum and try to speak your mind or ask a question. I just don't feel like you're welcome there. I think they would like to rule by committee and just do what they want to do, and it might be something good, but it might not be something good. And I think better decisions are made with more public input that affects the citizens of Gulf Shores.
Yeah, we tuned into the last meeting, and it was interesting to watch because it was very don't ask questions kind of thing. Blair can expound on that.
They literally said not to question things that I believe are very valid questions and reasonable things to ask about. And it's not like anybody is accusing or saying this happened. No, people just want answers. They want an explanation and they want a response. And that was kind of my whole hang up with Gulf Shores. The entire city council and mayor's office, I had reached out to via email and tried to ask questions and get involved. And I said this, and they're like, that's misinformation. No, it totally is true. I have all the time-stamped emails. No one responded to me. And when I went to Orange Beach, they invited me in for a meeting and said, let us show you this, this, and that. And I was just like, that is a weird city government that would be so kind of like hush-hush or like dismissive of a resident who moved here, who has valid concerns about living here. I thought it was peculiar, but yeah, they definitely, I got the feeling, don't like being questioned either. And I had a friend, too, that went in front of the council and talked about how she didn't want to development townhouses behind her property, and the sewage was going to flow into her thing, and there was water buildup, and she got told the same thing, like, thanks for coming. No response. They built it anyways.
Yeah, it's good that you can catch those meetings on the video because you can look at the dais and you can look at the faces of people when citizens are talking and trying to express a concern, and you can see people like downright smirking at people sometimes, and it's bothersome.
Yeah, in my particular situation, the last council meeting I attended, and I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't really care to attend another one after that one.
Mm-hmm.
But it was concerning the Embassy Suites Hotel, which I have many questions about. But the question that I asked, which, all of these things were already done, but I just asked for an explanation concerning the parking for the hotel. I happen to know a whole lot about how the hotel came about. I have a whole lot of questions about the...
Can you kind of summarize for those that don't know about the Embassy Suite?
Yeah, so the Embassy Suite's a 257 room suite hotel with conference center, restaurants, bars, the typical things you would see in a resort area. The piece of property that it's on was a former amusement park, been in Gulf Shores for years and years. Was wiped out in Hurricane Ivan, I believe. And I believe in 2008, the city purchased a piece of property for $3.5 million. The city then, for several years, it went kind of as an open lot. It was used as staging area for the music festival. It was used as kind of an overflow or free parking space for people coming to the beach. And the city decided, or the mayor and council decided, that they wanted to entertain I don't know the proper word, but a public-private relationship and allow or to give this piece of property to a developer if they would build a conference hotel under certain criteria. The main criteria being the way that you were going to pay the city, which translates to the citizens, because that piece of property, once the city purchased it with $3.5 million, became a piece of property that each and every citizen in Gulf Shores owned a little piece of, is the way I look at it. And so that piece of property, the main way that the developer was going to pay for that is they were going to present, plans, and then they would pay for it by providing 150 parking spaces on that site, in addition to the required parking spaces that whatever you were going to build would require. Well, that number becomes like 500 parking spaces. And of course, that would have to be done in a raised concrete parking garage. But what happened when it was all done and the developer got 3 or 4 extensions during the process, each time negotiating with the city to get something else. And it appears, valid or not, but it appears to me in my research that every time the developer went back, the developer got everything and the city got nothing. The city got less and the developer got more. So my question to the city in that meeting was, I don't see the 150 parking places in this plan. Where are they? I thought was a pretty valid question. The mayor addressed the question by telling me that it had been handled. So my next question was, how has it been handled? And his response was, they wrote a check to the city of Gulf Shores that basically wiped it out. My concern or issue with that is the amount that they paid was $1.2 million, where in reality, the 150 parking spaces in a raised concrete structure, its cost would be $3.3 million, between $3.3 million and $4.5 million would be the cost of construction on that site, but they only paid $1.2 million. The city then received an $800,000 grant to combine with the 1.2 and had $2 million to distribute, as the mayor told me. We are going to distribute it across the beach zone. At which point I asked, do you have a map? They didn't. He directed staff to send me a map, which they didn't. And then I eventually got one after several emails and calls. And so those parking spaces, while I don't know that the 150 have been completed, maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but they are spread on the other side of 59 on East First, is the main area. There's been quite a bit of construction done over there. And then my final question is, to the mayor, or my statement was, I just don't see what it is that the city residents, the citizens, received by this. Mm-hmm. His response, direct response to me was, so that you can continue to enjoy the standard of living that you have grown most accustomed to.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was and that was the end of the conversation. I thought that was very condescending.
Yeah.
And I knew at that point that I was going to expose everything that I saw from that point forward. He didn't know it, but I knew it when I walked out of that meeting. And, I don't ask for anything for me that every citizen shouldn't be entitled to. But my family has been here since 1921. My family has donated and helped create over 13 churches. My family, for years, gave the city of Gulf Shores every piece of property that they had. My family donated the main public beachfront in Gulf Place. My family donated many of the beach accesses up and down West Beach and throughout the city. And so while I don't ask for anything extra, I don't think I'm special. I think that we were fortunate to be in a position to be able to do what we did. I'm glad we were able to do what we did. I hope we made a positive contribution to the city of Gulf Shores. And all I would have liked to have had was a nice, friendly, positive conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I received was far from that. So let's just say the line was awoken on that day.
What has your experience been like after you've been making videos and speaking out about things that make you wonder, that you have questions about? What has the feedback been from different types of people?
Well, I can tell you the biggest surprise is I've had almost 50,000 views in 4 days. Wow. In a town of 17,000 with only 2,600 people that voted. You wouldn't think there was that much interest in what I had to say. Obviously, there is. I think one of the things they say is you'll know when you're over the target when you start receiving fire. If that's the case, then I've been flying all over the target. By and large, in the 90 percentile, it's been positive response to every video that I have cast. There are some antagonizers out there, and that's fine. I welcome a good, healthy debate. I've got no problem with that. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that in America we hold dear freedom of speech. My main goal I had to have kind of a platform and a way to say what I was trying to say. But what I'm trying to say more than anything else is go and vote. If you love what's going on and everything's perfect and you live in Shangri-La, then go vote that way. And if you don't think you live in some utopia, then, vote for some change. The facts are that the mayor and city council have been in office a very long time, the majority over 20 years, mm-hmm. or 20 years. And so, I am certainly not here to say everything that the mayor and city council have done have been wrong. I'm certainly not here to say I want their job. I have the opportunity to run just like everybody else. I don't want their job. But I do think that citizen input is important. And I do think that beyond everything else, we have a few small hamlets that we call neighborhoods on the island. And I think no matter what happens, they have to be protected. That's what I tried to bring out in my first video concerning Meyer Park in the Gulf Pines area. It's an old working class neighborhood. The people who live there have scratched and scraped in order to get in it. It's small lots, it's small houses. It's always been a working family's neighborhood. The park being there is such a positive part of it, because you've got a great place for kids to go hang out and play in a safe environment, and running a commercial street through it, I don't care what your reason, just should not have been acceptable, in my opinion.
What do you think of that pedestrian bridge that's coming in?
Well, if you saw my video, then I called it the second bridge to nowhere. And I just, believe me, I've gotten shot at from every direction this week. So I'll just address the comments. Number one, city has nothing to do with it. It's the state. Well, my opinion is, if you had a good effort and a good working relationship with the state, then you could find other solutions.
Yeah.
Number two, there was no other solution. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know. I haven't been in all their meetings. But I find it hard to believe that there was no way that a expanded metal contraption or something couldn't have been welded onto the side of the existing bridge, or what is the benefit of 3 lanes on that bridge. It seems to me, I spend a tremendous amount of time. I have a delivery business and I have a bike business. So there's 2 things that I do a lot of: ride bikes and deliver products. And so I'm up and down streets all over this island all the time. And to me, all we have done is created a larger parking lot. I don't see traffic moving better. I don't see traffic moving faster. I mean, the reality is you can build 100 lanes coming into Gulf Shores, but you got 2 lanes on each side, a 4-lane highway going to and from the beach. And so unless or until you can expand that, how are you, 90% of the traffic is trying to get to the beach. That's the asset they're trying to reach. It was just funny. I mean, I didn't think I would learn what I learned, but I stated in that video that the places I saw in my research where those bridges occurred were Chicago, Portland, Seattle, and California. And then I stated all of which are places I don't want Gulf Shores to become.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a crazy, parallel deal that just, popped up. And I was like, well, this is golden, isn't it?
But yeah, I can get on the phone with AlDOT now. So I was like, why can't the city council, the current people in office, get on the phone with AlDOT when they gave their information to me, and now they're just a phone call away? It's interesting. And it's funny because after that was brought to some more public attention, that started happening. When I made the video about the 2 signs that were like 10 feet from each other, ahead, detour, detour ahead. And I was like, what is this? What's the common sense of 2 signs? Why is that necessary? The next day, 1 sign was gone. So I think it's great to make videos because, and I'm not saying you have to make video for everything, that everything requires like bringing it outward, but it's funny because we bring things up to the meetings, we email, we call, and nothing gets done. But then when you put it on video, things start moving. And people will ask like why we kind of started this podcast and what we're doing. That's exactly why. Because when we couldn't get a response, this gave us an avenue to be like, hey, who else is experiencing this? What's going on? And all of a sudden responses are happening. So I love that part of it. And it really is double-sided because you get a lot of positive feedback of like, I'm glad you're doing this. I felt the same way. We're right here next to the Meyer Park detour as well, and it is absolutely frustrating. And
yeah, I spent a year and a half enjoying running up and down the avenues without traffic racing through, and now with that new red light at the corner for the pedestrian bridge, out-of-state plates and locals just tearing through there, and I don't feel necessarily safe. I still go, but it's a lot less safe on those streets.
Well, yes, and you may or may not realize it extends past that street because people are constantly trying to avoid that street.
So they just weave all the way through the neighborhood.
They're going all the way through the neighborhood. I mean, all the way down to the other end.
Yep.
I see it happen all the time. Twice, my personal experience, I've almost been run over by 18-wheelers when I'm in my black Suburban. So, the streets are not even, I'm sure there's some kind of engineering that took place. I would hope so. But it appears to me that the radiuses are not correct for 18-wheelers. Right. And you certainly got them coming and going between Gulf Shores and Orange Beach all the time.
It was already sketchy at that intersection before they took it out, yeah.
There's also, every time we drive, everybody says 59 is the worst road, and we think it is, especially Oak Road West up there. There is no way to make U-turns or have cut-throughs or turn around in a lot of places, which I know you highlighted some as well.
When are we going to fix County Road 6? That left turn to County Road 6.
I think actually
there is that joint county thing, but a lot of it I think could be fixed. Well, number one, with a cutaway before there to get into some of those businesses on the left if you're coming from this way, going north, and then also I think that they should just look at the timing of some of these lights because maybe 3 cars get through if you're lucky in that U-turn, and then all of a sudden you're stuck there another wait, and usually 3 waits. It's a bad
even
light.
Tourists mention it in the what's happening groups, and it's been years, and why is it still that way?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want this job, and it's no easy task.
Right.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying just anybody can do this. I know it's frustrating for the administration. Mm-hmm. I would hope it's as frustrating to the administration as it is to the citizens because, we're frustrated. But you're right. I mean, you look at these things, and my answer cannot be, Old Gulf Shores can't do it. This is a state project. You look at what I referred to in one of my videos as Malfunction Junction at 2nd and Fort Morgan Road. I mean, I literally paid attention to it after I made the video. There is literally space for 3 cars, 2 cars pulling any type of trailer in the turn lane that has to turn around. So therefore it backs up everybody else that just wants to go straight down Fort Morgan Road. I mean, so that's not a solution for moving traffic. The new 59 in Gulf Shores south of the bridge. I mean, does anybody realize how many people go to the Ace Hardware? And so if you're a contractor coming from Foley in the morning and you need to get to Ace Hardware, what's the first thing they do? Make a U-turn at the Fort Morgan Road 59 intersection. And you're a contractor. You're pulling trailers. Lots of times big trailers. Yeah. And that is an absolute cluster.
There's nowhere to park there either. You're hanging in the road.
I make a lot of trips to Ace Hardware. I live south of Ace Hardware. So when I leave Ace Hardware, how do I get back home? Every turn is right turn out. So I have to go north, take a right, go through the Walmart parking lot, weave around through it, come back out to Fort Morgan Road, get back on it, and head south. I mean, how is that an improvement?
Yeah.
If somebody's got a different route, I'm all for hearing.
Yeah, for sure. And we were talking off camera a little bit about the new high school location on the expressway, and part of the school's right there on the expressway. How are they going to keep that safe? Like, how do you, nobody really has an answer yet on whether there's going to be police presence directing traffic right there, schools owning it, heavy speed reduction, concern of kids running across the street to get to the gas station and the new hot dog stand that's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I would hope those are all considerations that the city has made, but I'll be real surprised if they were. I've got another one for you. I'm fortunate that I homeschooled all of my children, but if I had a child in elementary school and in high school who wasn't driving, and they're car riders, how in the world do I pick them both up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And what are you going to do with my children until I can get there? Because it may be quite a while for me to get from one school to the other.
Do they let out the exact same time? I didn't
I
even
don't
realize
know.
that. Oh,
I mean, as
But
far as I know,
yeah.
school lets out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I know the middle school lets out at 2:50, so I don't know if that's in consideration of things like that or not.
I can tell you one thing. I put myself in the eyes of a bird one day, and I thought to myself, if I was a bird and I was flying over this island and I saw the Orange Beach High School and I saw the Gulf Shores High School, I would go, man, it sure would have been cool if they would have just built one high school. That's a lot of money, and I know that's a lot of water under the bridge and crying over spilled milk and everything else. But, to have two school systems in such small communities, I kind of
Yeah, that's seldom brought up. Yeah.
Kind of wonder about that as well. And I think a lot of that stems, I'm famous for saying this. If we had two mayors that could sit down and have a donut and a cup of coffee together, we'd be like years ahead.
Yeah.
But we don't have that.
And that's exactly what we need. We need more inter-municipality and interdepartmental coordination.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Foley, Gulf Shores, and Orange Beach, and look at it as a tri-city cooperative unit,
Mm-hmm.
The power that they would have in the county, in the state, would be tremendous. But when we're all going up there with three different visions, three different plans, three different ideas, the state goes, they can't get it together, move on to the next.
Yeah, we were just talking with somebody discussing concerns like human trafficking, like that headline about the Ukrainian guy coming to get a Gulf Shores woman.
Right.
And we don't have sheriffs that know each other from Baldwin to Escambia. And the borders are right there. We need communication. We need coordination between departments on things like that.
Well, I think communication is everything. If you want to talk about the video I did about, why is it that these houses can be rented by the week and why is it that these can't? And I had, I had a City of Gulf Shores employee that, jumped right out there, asked me 4 pointed questions. I tried to answer back as quickly as possible and precisely as possible because this was not hearsay. Mm-hmm. I happen to live in one of those districts. So I know firsthand the frustration of the neighborhood because I talked to my neighbors. And I was given a link to a public hearing, whatever. The fact is that both of the zones are exactly the same. They're both R2 zonings. There is no difference except there's a creek, and on one side of the creek, short-term rentals are allowed. On the other side, they're not allowed. There's absolutely no way that you can say anybody that is attached to Windmill Ridge Road is anything other than in a beach district. Mm-hmm. I mean, Windmill Ridge Road is the most highly traveled auxiliary road we have in the city limits of Gulf Shores on the island. And so it's frustrating. I love living there. I've lived there for 42 years. It's kind of like the nutty people that live in the French Quarter. For some people, it's everything. For other people, they wouldn't have anything to do with it. I love the energy of living where I live. I'm not asking to make us something that we're not. We are a beach. I mean, we're in the truest sense of the word, a beach town community south of the bayou all the way to the Gulf front. Mm-hmm. There's no way to distinguish us or divide us out as anything other than that. Every single night on my back porch, I'm listening to 4 or 5 bands. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't bother me. I like the energy that creates. Every day that I get up and have to go to work, I may be in line behind 50 cars trying to get on Windmill Ridge Road, and that's okay. You know, I mean, I choose to live there. It's part of the beach experience. I have a lot of neighbors. They don't ever seem to complain.
Yeah.
Because we realize where we live. We're not asking to be something different. We're asking to be treated like what we are.
Sure. Keep the character of what's been,
Right.
what's created,
Exactly.
what's around it. We were watching, I can't remember what it was, but the subject of decibel enforcement. Yeah, exactly. Because you were talking about being able to hear 5 bands. So do you foresee that kind of trouble coming for the local music scene and those who enjoy it, and people beginning to complain from the condos and stuff that are, want a quieter condo experience or something?
I don't know how the universe puts me in the places it puts me, but it's funny that you asked that question, because 3 weekends ago, I was with some friends at a celebration of life at the Lagoon Pass, and the little island of the Lagoon Pass. 2 individuals came up on jet skis. We had no idea who they were. They were from Tennessee, and they had speakers that looked like a Grateful Dead show attached to their jet skis. And they had the music playing so blessed loud. I mean, we were not enjoying it. They weren't with us.
Sure.
But it didn't take long, and 2 police officers showed up and said that they had had several complaints about the noise. We explained to them that it wasn't us, although we had a large group. And so it was rectified. But in the process of conversation with the very nice police officers, I might add, and I think Officer Baker was one of them, you got to love a police officer that shows up in short pants and no shoes. I mean, you just got to love it. Of course, he had to come across the water to get to us. But we asked him the question, well, what is the decibel level? And he said, well, that's not really what we go by. What we say is, if you can hear it from 30 feet from the source, then it's too loud. Which then leads
30 feet's not very far.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads me back to your question. And I sit on my back porch and listen to Hangout, Mud Bugs, Ice House, Loria's when it's outside. So it's, once again, while I think he told me exactly, what was right in his mind, whether it's right on paper or not, I don't know. I don't see that changing, and I don't think it should. I think we're in the beach zone. I think when you're there, you either accept that that's where you live, or you're on vacation, and that's what you're coming for.
Yeah. When that's where we met, was Loria's.
Right.
And when I started playing outside, looking across the street, at that condo, I said, how long is it going to be before the first calls start to come in? Somebody says, comes by and says, turn it down.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, and it's been
Excuse me.
over the years. There's been different, challenges with that, and how late it is, and the city may have ordinances against or for those type of things. I don't know.
And I've played
all
down
I know
here
is
16
I've heard
years.
how to do the pokey hokey or the hokey pokey about 5 million times from the Hangout. So I think I'm an expert on the hokey pokey.
Yeah, in my 16 years playing down here, I've never encountered, unless there was a pre-established complaint from a condo owner. Angry Crab is an example. They had to take drums away because a resident that moved there after the fact had a problem with how loud drums were and stuff like that. And so, but I have not seen that really much other places. And I just wondered with this spur of growth if things like that, because, they have that in New Orleans, in the French Quarter for sure. When I've played down there, it's definitely a thing. So I wondered how long, if it's an inevitability of our growth down here, that it will affect the ability of bands to be outside, creating the atmosphere that drew people here in the first place.
Yeah, and I think, that's just one of those things where I'm sure at some point somebody will bring up the issue, and I think the bigger question or statement would be, the community has to be involved in the decision.
Yes.
And if the community's involved in the decisions that are made, then it's hard to argue.
And that circles
It's when
back
a
to your
few-
voter
select
turnout.
few are in charge of making all of it. And look, it's not easy. It's not easy being a leader. It's not easy taking the masses and trying to corral them and come into one point of view.
It's
You know what
not.
I mean? It's chaotic. It's a chaotic process. Sometimes it's a long lasting process. But sometimes you just have to do it. It's part of doing the work.
Thinking about the Hangout Festival, they did one of the first things I've actually commend them on was they advertised a lot. This is going to be a public hearing. Give your input if we want to keep the festival. I was like, that's great. They're actually taking input. And then like 22 people came up to talk about it. That was it. Like, and I was like, man, it is what you're saying. Like, if you like things, then, you know, you vote on that. And if you want change, then vote on that. I just want to see people be involved and vote and have a voice. And there should be more than 22 people in a huge city that everybody seems to have an opinion online, but they don't seem to care enough to either fill out the feedback form or go to a meeting. And I get that it is frustrating, but that is like the way to do it. So I hope, and even with the voting turnout that you were talking about, only, 2,600 people showing up to vote last election. And of that, like under 200 of them were under the age of 40. That's
concerning. That's concerning. But, I think in all fairness, my experience, and I can't speak for everybody's experience, but my experience is you don't get a good, warm feeling when you go up there and speak your mind and speak your voice. And so, that translates throughout the community. And so people think, I don't have time to go waste.
Yeah.
I think something that came to my thought process in the last few days, I was thinking, when you walk into the front door of City Hall, the receptionist is behind a glass panel. Immediately in front of you is a locked door that you have to be buzzed into in order for you to go anywhere in the City Hall. And then I was like, where else do you run into that? And I was like, oh, the jail.
Yeah.
Well, the jail makes sense. And then I was like, are there any other places? I was like, well, yeah, the freestanding emergency clinic. Well, that could make sense too. There's a lot of people in a distress situation for security reasons. But who are we trying to secure from at City Hall? And what's going on behind those doors that we need to explain everything in the world in order to gain access?
Right.
It just, to me, as a first impression, once again, I'm not getting such a warm and fuzzy feeling.
Have you noticed the difference between going to Bay Minette and the things that you're allowed to bring with you and the level of security versus going to like Fairhope? I could have driven a Sherman tank up the elevator into the commission meeting and had no interaction with any kind of security beforehand. But in Bay Minette, you can't have your phones. You can't have so much as a pin, it doesn't seem like. They made me take off my watch at the door. At the Bay Minette courthouse, not the cornhouse.
Yeah. Well, I try not to have any experience.
Right. Same, but
good.
sometimes you have to do paperwork and go up there. And we weren't there for court even. We were just trying to get some simple paperwork done. And we just were taking note because I have a background in law enforcement, limited as it may be. But I've, gone through the processes and I've worked a little bit in the administration part. Right. And so I became concerned with the way that I saw things being handled and processed. And so that's how I kind of became a little bit more concerned citizen. And then, meeting Blair and her vast experience with it. And we just talk about it constantly in things we see.
Yeah. Well, there's certain security issues everywhere, and we don't live in a peaceful world. I get that, but we're a little tiny town. There's 17,000 people who live here. We're not a sprawling metropolis, although if we keep approving these subdivisions, we soon will be. But I just don't. I'm not. Although I've been here all my life, I'm not somebody that wants to shut the door. I'm not somebody that lives in some fantasy world that wants it to be like it was when I was a kid. Yes, I had a wonderful growing up period here. It was fabulous. But it was also sucked. I mean, it sucked to have to go to Foley to get a loaf of bread during the winter because every store down here was shut down.
Yeah.
It sucked when the drawbridge went down and we had to ride through Pensacola to get to Foley to school.
Wow.
I mean, there was a lot of things that were not so pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a wonderful place to grow up. Gulf Shores has always been blessed with a lot of characters, and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to spend a lot of time with a lot of them because I love to listen to people. And so, all I wanted to do in my series was just to try to, through my eyes, not through your eyes, not through the city's eyes, only through my eyes, and communicate some things that I see that I question or that I just downright don't like. Mm-hmm. And I think that I have the right to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you that there's some people that don't think I have the right because I answer all the comments. And there's some people that are not too happy with Joey Ward right now. That doesn't upset me.
Truth hurts.
Yeah, it doesn't upset me. It just goes back to what I said. When you're over the target because you start receiving fire. And so my question is, why is it a target? And why are you hiding behind it? And that's, I think, my bigger question. And, all I want in all of this is just for people to get out and vote. Because if truly the majority of the people were voting, then we live in a society where that rules. Mm-hmm. And so, but we don't have that because the majority of the people are not voting. Yes, we have majority rules in that the majority of the people that are voting voted one way, but it's such a tiny segment, 12%, that's ridiculous. It's sickening. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are people that gave everything, including their lives, in order for us to have the right to be able to walk into that booth and cast our vote. And the least thing that we can do in payment back to them for giving their all is to go in there and vote. And that's all I've asked. If you think that Gulf Shores is perfect, then you know who you're going to vote for. Same people you've been voting for the last 20 years. If you don't think it's perfect, or you have concerns, or you would like your voice to rise a little bit and feel like you are being heard, then you have some other choices. I mean, we have had years where there was no choice. There was nobody running. Mm-hmm. The mayor and council just went right back in. No opposition. And I guess in those times, everybody was doing a great job because nobody thought that anybody needed to be out of office. And if that's the case, fine. I mean, you just grin and bear it and live with it, whether you like it or not. But it's obvious to me with candidates in every spot this time that there is some consternation of the citizens. And I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that we are living in a time of disruption and change. And I think on the other side, it's going to be positive. But we got to get through it in order to see the highlands on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, got to show up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for what you're doing because it is important for people to get out to vote. It is important. It's August 26th, by the way. Get out and make your voice heard or vote ahead of time with an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot. You can do that too. But the election is August 26th, and vote whatever you feel. And if you have questions about candidates, I think every single candidate has meet and greets and is available. Their information can be found online. Go on Facebook, find them, go find their email. There's also voters' guides coming out to be published. And, so far, I've reached out to every single person. A lot of people are responsive, and then some people aren't. And I think get to know everybody and make up your mind and hear what motivates them and what they really stand for and make your decision. Be informed about it. So thank you for highlighting the issues and keep doing what you're doing.
All right. And I'm just going to say what I say at the end of all my videos. Peace, love, and I will see you soon.
All right.
I appreciate you.